However, what's been happening here with the convection, just because we're now beginning to see signs that high pressure is trying to build into this area. And if that's to happen and we're to see some persistent convection in this area, it could eventually, several days out from now, organize, become a little bit better developed perhaps. But right now, indications are the next 24 hours are going to remain on the quiet side throughout much of the Western Caribbean and also into the Gulf of Mexico for that matter. So just keep that in mind. As we cross Central America, we've got ourselves another little wave here that also is beginning to feel the effects of an upper level high pressure system and a lot of convection flaring up today. We're even beginning to see some signs of a little circulation if you look closely right here. So we might have our next tropical depression here in the not too distant future. So far though, it's just a mass of clouds and generally some showers and thunder showers for that matter. All right, now time to take you home where we've got a mess of showers and thunder showers across the United States this evening. Basically around the eastern U.S. between a front and a low pressure system and then another front pushing into the plains. We've got a lot of active weather to talk about tonight. We'll take you first into Florida where you poor folks in Miami, it has just been a rainy, soggy couple of days this week. I know since Monday, I remember seeing the rain down here Monday, Tuesday, today, Wednesday. Showers are moving off toward the northeast. Flooding is the biggest concern because we've seen so much rain in this region. But we've also got some showers popping up around Daytona Beach, around the Orlando area. We'll take you in a little closer into the Miami area. You can see we've got just a little bit of a break here if you live right on the extreme eastern edges of Miami. But on up toward Fort Lauderdale, Boca, on and toward West Palm, more heavier rains. And then moving into the Naples area, some heavier rains too. So it's going to be a wet night tonight. Into the mid-Atlantic region, some widely scattered thunderstorms, primarily concentrated in western South Carolina, western North Carolina, around the Asheville area. Don't be surprised if you find some hail, some brief periods of heavy rain with these storms. They'll settle down a little later on tonight. Once we lose the heating of the day, they'll kind of just wash out. On into the northeast, New York earlier, a few sprinkles for you, but that's died down. Now the bulk of the really nasty weather is into northwestern Pennsylvania, moving on through Ohio, central Ohio, Mansfield. You're getting some very strong thunderstorms moving on through. And the northern and western suburbs of Pittsburgh picking up some heavier rains for that matter as well. So be on the lookout in this region particularly for some heavy rains to create some flooding problems and some small hail. I've seen a number of reports of gusty winds with these storms, so be aware of that. Let's head you back to the forecast for tomorrow, and we'll find ourselves with just a beautiful day tomorrow. Once that cold front moves on through, it's going to actually stall out around this region. That's why we're going to start so muggy, but I'll tell you what, just glorious from New York through Hartford up to Boston. Sunny in the mid-70s, just a pleasant day. Not so, though, around D.C. and Norfolk. The clouds and showers are going to keep your temperatures a little on the cool side for this time of year. Down into the deep south, we are still finding that low pressure system circulating around here, so basically rain's an opportunity from Miami through New Orleans on up toward Raleigh. Dallas and Houston, though, you should stay dry and hot in the mid-90s. Upper Midwest, that front can't move very fast, so we're still going to be hot around Minneapolis and Chicago. Temperatures still in the 90s, but Minneapolis, here's a chance for some rain for you, probably more so by Thursday. And finally out west, we have actually a beautiful Thursday in store for you with high pressure keeping things sunny from Seattle to San Diego. Very comfortable and only a few sprinkles to the north. Coming up next, we'll show you where the winds are a real problem tonight.
If you're traveling in the northern plains or the east, scattered thunderstorms could slow you down. For a more detailed report, check out the Traveler's Update next.
Find out the conditions before you get on the road. Watch the Michelin Drivers Report, following your local forecast, only on the Weather Channel. For up-to-date information on the weather that affects you, watch the local forecast, coming up next, only on the Weather Channel. It's the in-depth story on the weather that affects you. It's uninterrupted weather information. It's a scope of coverage you won't find anywhere else. Get the news of changing weather events along with a detailed explanation of what's happening, plus a recap of the day's weather and the outlook for the rest of the week. Watch the next Weather Scope, mornings and evenings at the top and bottom of the hour, only on the Weather Channel.
And now it's time for the Michelin Drivers Report, brought to you by Michelin and your participating Michelin dealers.
Rainy travel again as we head into the southeast. Now, the showers and thunderstorms in the southeast are really much more widely scattered. We've got a higher concentration of rain as we head on into the Ohio Valley region. And as a matter of fact, across much of the Buckeye State, we're finding some problems with flash flooding. That being a problem because we've had persistent thunderstorms producing up to 3 inches of rain in a very short period of time. And that, of course, can certainly cause some ponding on the roadways and some travel problems. Here are your severe thunderstorm outlooks as we head on into the morning hours. And as you can see, much of the Ohio River Valley and also portions of the west under the gun tonight with the potential for severe weather. Let's take you to a radar now showing Ohio and Indiana, and we will indeed find some stronger thunderstorms pushing on through Wayne County and Holmes County, on and through northeastern Ohio, on into portions of northwestern Indiana around White County, seeing some stronger thunderstorms as well. There are the severe thunderstorm watch areas in effect, and please watch out for the winds as we head out into the foothills and the central.
For a scope of coverage you won't find anywhere else, watch Weather Scope, coming up after your local forecast, only on the Weather Channel. For up-to-date information on the weather that affects you, watch the local forecast, coming up next, only on the Weather Channel.
Brings thunderstorms, cooler temperatures, and sweltering heat across the country.
We'll show you which areas are cooling off as others heat up, and we'll tell you which places will spend the early days of summer under showers.
Weather Scope tonight is next.
For a scope of coverage you won't find anywhere else, this is Weather Scope Tonight.
The change in seasons brings a slight change in the weather for some areas and copies the last days of spring for others. Hello, I'm Keith Westerledge.
And I'm Rich Johnson. As thunderstorms parade across the south tonight, temperatures in the northeast cool down, but still some areas still quite warm in the middle of the nation. This is a great way to start summer, and it's the way many Iowans spent the last hot days of spring. Above normal temperatures made the first day of summer a hot one in Cedar Rapids. The city's normal high this time of year is in the low 80s. Temperature sizzled into the mid-90s. And to Chicago, recent days of hot weather were enough to make you want to lose your shirt and just take a jog along the beach. Well, it looks like a few more days of hot weather around Chicago before the front moves on in by the weekend, and an increased chance of thunder showers too. Well, as we look out there and see why it's starting to warm up, of course, today's the first day of summer, and essentially we're talking about as the Earth orbits the sun, it's where in the northern hemisphere the Earth is tilting toward the sun at its greatest angle, Earth at its maximum tilt toward the sun, and the sun reaches its most northern latitude, which is directly over the Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degrees. As we look at a few facts here, longest day of the year, that's today. Sun is at its highest point in the sky for the entire year, and shadows today also are at their shortest. Very interesting to note, though, that today we have the strongest rays of sunshine in the northern hemisphere, but in many cases the warmest weather lags behind for the middle of July or into August. For instance, here's an example. Seasonal temperatures, New York, June 21st, today the average high 81, but really we don't see the average highs topping out until the middle of July, up to around 86 degrees.
As we look at the stubborn pattern in the east, look at this. I tell you what, that upper low in the southeast is kind of stuck there, while to the north we have a ridge of high pressure, strong ridge of high pressure, and that's called a Rex block, which just simply means that the pattern's not changing. And as long as it doesn't change, then we're going to be stuck with some really warm temperatures in the northern plain states, and in some cases they're going to be record-setting high temperatures. Just look at these readings that we see currently. 100, no, not 100, only in Phoenix, but it feels like 100 out there in some cases. 93 degrees in International Falls, 92 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. While we head down to Dallas, Fort Worth, you guys, it's 94 degrees, so some hot weather, again with the ridge of high pressure. Think of it when our jet stream lifts northward, so does all the warm temperatures. And look at these heat index values, anywhere from 88 in Detroit to 97 right now in Kansas City. It is hot out there, and just a few clouds, a couple of showers and thunderstorms farther on toward the west to help cool things down. And out here in the west, we have this upper low spinning around, and with that, showers and thunderstorms just scattered about, and some of those thunderstorms might produce some briefly gusty winds and some small hail, while right along the west coast, it's quiet as high pressure kind of noses on in. Farther on down to the south in Texas, high pressure is in control from Houston northward up to Dallas, and again, it is hot there in Kansas City this afternoon. That's the way things are looking as we head through the Midwest and West tonight.
Okay, Keith, as I look a little bit farther to the east, what we certainly see is a cold front slicing through Maryland into Ohio, and it's really this cold front which has caused the severe weather to pop up through Pennsylvania westward into Ohio and Indiana. In fact, some hailstorms earlier today around Indianapolis, officially at the airport, some 1/2 inch hailstones. And what we do find is that there are several severe weather watches, including Indianapolis over to Columbus and Cleveland into Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Washington. Of course, that means the possibility of severe weather does exist, maybe some large hail or damaging winds. Into South Florida, another soaker today around Miami. And actually, it looks like additional thunderstorms still developing off to your southwest, so this evening still going to stay a little bit wet. Into Georgia after early thunderstorms today around Atlanta. Those are fading away. Additional weather popping up across the Smokies. Even a couple heavy showers still up to the north of Greenville, Spartanburg. On your way up to Charlotte, up 85. Farther north to near New York City, earlier around Teterboro and Newark and out to Caldwell, some rain reported. But really the heaviest of the weather has been in western Pennsylvania, southwest Pennsylvania, some heavy showers, and also out to Newcastle, of course, some rather turbulent conditions. Even in Columbiana County about an hour ago, confirmed report of a tornado. Other storms still continue to develop into Ohio and Indiana, although it seems like the worst of the weather is now over with.
Well, today in history, we look at the first day of summer in 2 different years, and what a difference a year makes. In 1988, the first day of summer brought a heat wave. 69 cities report record highs. Sioux City, Iowa, 108 degrees, while in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it was 110. That was in 1988, while a year later, in 1989, a late season cold snap hit Colorado. 15 inches of snow in Mount Evans at the summit and 6 inches at Conifer, and even snow reported down in the foothills of Denver, Colorado.
Well, Keith, I don't think we're going to find any of that type of searing heat or cold. We do have some rather warm conditions in our forecast as we continue to watch the northern plains. There will be a few more days of warm to hot conditions, maybe into the 90s, maybe not the type of day where we find many records fall. We do have a cold front slowly moving across the plains, so the weather pattern for the first partial day of summer is likely to be the same for the first full day tomorrow, where more storms may be popping up from Pier all the way up to around Fargo. Additional rain through the mid-Atlantic, maybe from Charlotte over to around Richmond and Norfolk, as a cold front slowly drops southward. With this front, adds uplift to the atmosphere, and there's certainly lots of humidity around, so there's going to be a fairly decent shot of seeing some showers and storms stretching from the Mason-Dixon line southward to Florida once again. Additional storms right up through the central plains as our cold front moves in. Of course, we could find some locally heavy rain where thunderstorms pop up. We have plenty of moisture in the atmosphere for the locally heavy rains, especially in southern Florida. More than 4 inches, certainly a possibility. Staying chilly tonight into the Rockies, but east of the Rockies, 60s, really not so bad for this time of year, because many cases we're looking for the nighttime low to be near 70 or even above across a large portion of the south. Forecast for the weekend, we'll start with some 90s. Eventually the 90s are going to disappear, not essentially because the cold front moves by, but because as the cold front moves farther to the east, we'll find a stronger flow from the south, picking up additional moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. That means more clouds, more thunderstorms. So that's what we're going to see happen across the Great Lakes, more instability and better chance of rain. 80s from Indianapolis to Detroit, over to around Philly and down to D.C. Getting hotter, though, in the southwest around Phoenix. You may be up near 110 degrees for a few days this weekend. Your forecast Friday, one front here, the other one still meandering through the mid-Atlantic, maybe from D.C. to Richmond to around Indianapolis still. So we could still see some more showers and thunderstorms lingering in our forecast all the way through the weekend. The one dry location that we see is certainly the West Coast, probably all the way through Monday.
And the first day of summer was celebrated in a special way at the Como Zoo in St. Paul, Minnesota. Animals were given piles of ice to munch on. The orangutans and gorillas also found the ice useful for pitching and tossing. But on a hot day like today, they soon discover an even greater enjoyment, eating it to beat the heat. I'll tell you what, and it was hot enough, Rich, to where that was just the best way to cool down in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Looks like that heat in some cases is going to continue at least for the next day or so.
I tell you what, that monkey is not monkeying around there.
No, smart critter, that is for sure. Stay tuned. Coming up later this hour, we'll check on the forecast for your local area and see if there's any watches in effect.
For up-to-date information on the weather that affects you, watch the local forecast. Coming up next, only on the Weather Channel.